Today we're talking about talent, and we're talking about talent within our tech ecosystem. I'm really excited to have this panel here. The context is that talent is key to startup survival and to building great companies, but we have talent gaps and issues. And I feel like everyone on this panel has experienced that either as someone who is, facilitating talent movements from country to country, building startups, helping grow startups, or educating as well. And I'm really excited to introduce this panel to you. What we're going to do is we're going to go around and just do a quick intro of like who you are, what you're doing, and then also how what you're doing contributes to talent within this ecosystem. And there's no better place to start than with Alan.
Thanks, Caleb. Uh, Hi, everyone. My name is Alan Mwangi. I am the Entrepreneurship Development Manager at ALX. What do? We cultivate, train, fund, and help also identify entrepreneurs through our talent ecosystem, which is ALX, and help put them through entrepreneurial programs, through accelerators, founder academies, sort of prepare them for entrepreneurship. So the way that we are kind of helping the ecosystem, as you would say, especially from a talent perspective, is creating also industry aligned sort of programs, because I think where the talent sort of issue comes is guys have general tech skills, but then they're not necessarily industry aligned. So what we've been doing is partnering with a couple of different companies in specific sectors to make sure that these guys not only have tech skills, but also specific skills, whether it's fintech, health tech, agri, and the likes.
That's really cool. We're going to come back to that for sure, building these talent pipelines. Olu, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Holu. I'm co-founder and CEO at Vesti. Vesti is the hub for Africans with global ambitions. So we foster talent mobility within and outside the continent because we believe that it's important to get a world view before you can add, value in tremendous ways. This has happened with Asia and Southeast Asia many years. They sent a lot of people to America, to learn and still carry the soul of their continent and be able to come back to develop that continent. So today, we facilitate humans moving to the US, to Canada, to other parts of Europe for education, for work experience, but with the mindset that they have a continent to build and the work that they need to come back to do, on the continent. And I'm a mentor at ALX, by the way,
Thank you for your support.
so that's what we do. Today we have over 200,000 users on our platform who are seeking opportunities to get work permits, visas, green cards, in different parts of the world. And December 1st this year, we will be launching our intra-Africa routes, meaning that a Nigerian shouldn't have a problem getting a work permits to work in South Africa or in Kenya. If we are already doing it, across continents, why not within the continent?
That's awesome. And I think this, thanks, Olu. I think let's hear it for Vesti. I think the interaction between building talent within the continent and allowing them to leave is going to be an interesting dynamic that we'll get into soon. Ronnie, over to you.
There we go. Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Ronnie. I work with an organization called the Pairs Program for Global Innovation. We're actually based in Israel, where a lot of tech talent exists. Our organization focuses on bridging between Israeli entrepreneurs, startups, technology, the ecosystem back there, and challenges, needs, and partners in emerging markets, mostly in Africa. And we do that through two main channels. So we work with mature companies, tech startups, tech companies that we realize they have relevant solutions for acute challenges here, and we help them adapt. So adapt business models, adapt products to fit these markets and help bring value and impact to people here. And we also build our own startups, not really our own because we don't necessarily invest, but we provide the kind of support system for Israeli tech entrepreneurs to develop new solutions that could bring value. We're an impact-first organization, highly based on partnership. And if we're talking about talent, we've been getting requests from hubs all over Africa calling us to bring in mentorship and tech expertise to founders here. In Israel, startup nation, so on, tech is abundant. There is a lot of it, but usually it's not directed to where it can bring the most impact and where it can make the most difference. And that's what we're trying to do. Yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Ronnie. Jordanos, over to you.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. My name is Jordanos. I'm with an organization called Africa Silicon Valley, A2SV. So we are a tech academy and incubator. We have so far trained over 800 students in Africa. We do this through in-person and remote education. We offer a free, rigorous software engineering program, and we connect our students with global tech opportunities, both in Africa and Europe and the US as well. Our students so far have gotten placements at Google, Palantir, Databricks, and other top tech companies. But we also incubate our startups locally so that our students can bring their experiences and can help build projects that are addressing local challenges. In addition, we also organized the continent's biggest hackathon, which this year brought together over 5,000 students in high school and college from 48 African countries. And the finale will be in a few weeks in Ethiopia, where the 8 final teams will have the chance to win a prize pool of $30,000. And similar to what you spoke, we bring together mentors and advisors from top tech companies to help our students, the hackathon participants, and projects. So excited to be here with all of you to talk about talent.
Unreal. Thanks, Jordanos. And Shay, over to you.
Hello.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shay Pandele. I'm co-founder and CEO at a company called Paid HR. Paid HR is a HR tech company building tools to help African employers hire, manage, and pay their employees wherever they are on the continent. Um, we only recently now added like the global banking behind. So beyond just finding and managing talent, you're also able to pay them in whatever currency they prefer, provided is within the currencies that we provide. And we do provide about 51 currencies across 190 countries. Yeah, in terms of how we help manage talent. So via the HR tech part, via partnerships with other providers, we help these businesses do things like training plans, performance management, hiring pipelines, and all that stuff to ensure that they can find the right people to do the work that they need to be more productive and also compensate them fairly and remit their statutory obligations properly across their various geographical locations.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So now that we've gone through and talked about how we're all contributing or being a part of the talent in the ecosystem, I think I want to talk a bit about the interaction between this idea of like getting out and getting experience and getting the reps in to be a great operator here versus like building from the continent. And I actually want to start with Shay. I would love everyone's perspective on this, but starting with you, Shay, like uh you're building a company, Paid HR, you're building it quickly. I'm seeing, the traction on Twitter, you're very active, it's awesome. But what's it been like building a team locally and hiring locally? And then also what are you seeing with the companies you work with in terms of where they find talent? Is there a cutoff where eventually you actually need to go global to scale a company on the continent? Like, what are you seeing around this space?
I mean, journeys are unique, right? Depending on what you're building and where you are at the stage of your build. For instance, only 18 months ago, we were just about seven team members working out of a small spot in Surulere, Lagos. Today, we have about 40 employees managing about 25,000 lives across 250 organizations across the continent. How we find so in the very early stage, there are conversations now about founder mode and how people need to get their hands dirty and do the work. At the very early stage of building, most of the people that are going to work with you are going to learn that work ethic from you, and the talent that you find is usually just potential at the early stage. And then you work together with these guys to build their capacity to be able to handle bigger things like we are doing now. So finding talent and going we're all very young. Tech as a concept or working in tech on the continent is still a very young industry. So there's nobody that's going to boast 20, 30 years experience working in tech. We have to build that talent locally. And it starts from us, the builders who are building the companies, finding those potentials and working with them to become world class.
Interesting. So you think that it is about finding local talent, building them up, and supporting them within your organization.
Absolutely.
One take on this, and I'm curious to get your perspective. This is off script, but I think it's a lot more interesting. Is what do you think about speed to deliver? Like building a team and training a team versus like hiring experts. How do you think about that? And then I guess maybe Alan as well. Like this might be an interesting one for you as you're building pipeline from the earliest stage. How do you think about their ability to quickly execute and actually get things done so you can move faster?
Me still?
Let's start with you. Yeah.
So to be clear, your question is um finding potential versus hiring experts, right?
Yeah, exactly. And nurturing potential versus hiring
Nurture potential.
experts.
Again, it's very tied or connected to where you are as a company. What stage of your build or your journey are you in? At some point, yes, when you're smaller and starting out, you need to find local talent, develop them. But as your company grows and becomes bigger, you may need to find some level of expertise that you need to be able to bring in to handle certain things. Otherwise, you, the founder, will be completely operational and never be able to rise above, start thinking about strategy and growth and the future. So yes, it's stage based, sort of. Early days, you can start with, teaching and nurturing and helping people grow. But at some point in your journey, when you start getting to a seed stage, later in seed stage company, you may need to bring in some expert talent in some roles.
Awesome. Let's throw over to Alan. Like, what do you think about that concept of really training and nurturing talent from the earliest stage, versus like startups trying to move quickly and just hiring globally and like looking outside of the continent?
So we kind of we've got a little bit of an interesting hybrid way that we kind of approach this. So a lot of people will come to us, and because we have a relatively large talent pool, they kind of want to source and do it sort of the traditional way. But we kind of urge them and nudge them to do it more of an ALX way, which we call doing hard things. So we like to do hackathons with guys who are actually looking to hire. So if you're looking to hire for a specific department or a specific project within your organization, what we will then do is put on a small enough hackathon, maybe 100, 120 guys, 15 to 20 teams, and you kind of hire out based off of who the best teams are. So that, I think, again, going back to the aspect of being more industry aligned, allows someone to kind of see what are the problems that they're actually going to be working on, who is the best talent really out of this pool, like in an active sort of space, instead of, oh, let's go through 2, 3 months of technical interviews and try to get that worked out. Now, with the speed sort of thing, we typically also have really strong technical mentors internally as well. So our in-house enterprise AI outfit, which is Sand Technologies, that's our 1% of the talent that comes out of our programs. But also we've gone outside and really tried to hire incredible individuals with 15, 20 years in the AI space. So those guys also very much get involved within these hackathons as well. So it kind of helps frame that a little bit. And again, by the time they're coming out of this hackathon, you've kind of got at least an MVP or a prototype of what you're trying to work on as an organization. And you kind of also know who's the talent that you can actually select from that as well.
That's really cool. So you look at getting a lot of people through a pipeline almost of education and hackathons, and you place the top 1%. Is that?
So these guys are going through our standard sort of programs, which we have quite a few. We've got software engineering.
How many are we talking?
At the moment, we have 12 different programs that guys can entertain. So whether that's software engineering, whether that's data science, data analytics, AWS Cloud, Salesforce Cloud, AI engineering, we've got so many different programs. We even have a virtual assistant program if you're looking for VAs as well. And so they'll go through these programs, and through that pipeline, now they enter ventures, right? Which is now our founder academies, our accelerators. And so when we put this hackathon together for your organization, you'll tell us what you're working on. Are you working on a data problem? Okay, I'm going to make sure within this hackathon, I got a subset of data scientists in here. I got a subset of backend engineers in here, and maybe some other guys who are toying around with AI, and sort of let you decide what's the talent you want from that.
Yeah, awesome. That's a really interesting and quite different approach. I'm curious now to jump over to the international side. So Jordanos and then Olu, like what is the value and like where do you see the place of tech talent going global to get skills and experience, and like how are you doing that at the moment through the Silicon Valley program, Jordanos?
So one thing we notice as far as the gap that we're trying to fill is you have software engineering programs in Africa at different universities, but unfortunately, there's mostly focused on theory, and they don't have the fundamentals such as data structures or algorithms or the practical training to really marry the two. So for us, whether it's about getting past the interviews, being able to be placed at these top tech companies, or actually have the experience to build products that can scale and that can serve end users, that's the gap we're filling. So we partner with universities in Africa. We currently have 4 partnerships, 3 in Ethiopia and 1 in Ghana. And we get these students early on. So as they're completing their undergraduate studies, and we put them through over 1,000 hours of training covering on the fundamentals, but also having the practical experiences. So our incubator arm provides that vehicle for the practical training. So they really get to mimic what it feels like to work at these top tech companies. They're in a scrum team. They have software engineers, product managers, designers. So it's not going to be a big gap for them where they're going to be shocked into, you know, essentially paralysis when they get to those experiences. So they get to develop those skills early on, and they get to produce products that could really impact the local communities. And we also do this by the advisors and mentors we bring in from these companies, so they really get to work with them on the daily. And that merging of experiences makes a huge difference. And also, our students, after they've had these experiences, come back and they get to be the core developers and they get to be the mentors for the others that are going through the program. So far, since we're in Kenya, we actually have one student who's doing an internship at IBM after completing her internship, not internship, her training at A2SV. So for us, it's that full ecosystem where we bring in the local community, the diaspora community, and other tech professionals around the globe so that there is a full ecosystem to nurture the talent.
That's really cool. And that's a very cool example of that coming back around to support local talent as well. Feels a lot like how you develop and build a hub. It might be cool to go to Roni now actually and talk about, how it like in Israel and in that ecosystem have tech hubs been built and supported, because Israel has a very booming like tech ecosystem. A lot of fantastic companies have come out of there. I'm curious to know like what that looked like on the ground for you, and then what lessons can be learned from that.
Sure. It's a big question. It's a process of decades. And it takes a lot of different players to play a part, right? Of course, government initiatives, investments, VCs that come in and invest. But as a rule of thumb, I would say Israelis don't innovate for Israel. They're always outward looking, because we're a tiny market, right? And when they innovate to solve problems that they know, problems that Americans experience and problems that Europeans experience. And we are kind of positioned in a way to educate the Israeli market to look at other parts of the world that they don't know. Now, it's a bit problematic, right? Because they're solving solutions to problems that they never experienced. We still believe that their expertise and their capabilities are super, super relevant, according to what we've discussed now. And it's not mutually exclusive, whether to nurture tech expertise from within or bring it from the outside, because it always trickles down. And there are actually multiple really interesting case studies of Israeli companies that have brought tech from Israel. And the R&D is taking place in Tel Aviv, but the operational arm and the deep familiarity with the market and the needs and the know-how and what people actually want and could use is local. And it's kind of like a co-created venture that then grows and brings impact and goes to scale thanks to the tech capabilities that Israelis could bring to the table, AI, deep tech, blockchain, you name it. I'll give 2 examples. Avenues, Fintech that is actually active in Kenya here, that brings credit and loans to agribusinesses. R&D, Tel Aviv, huge office with over 40 employees here in Kenya. Fido, another credit company based in Ghana. Their first employees, now they're global manager, kind of scaling from Ghana to Uganda and other markets. And he started kind of very small into the organization. So, that expertise does transfer, and it's really exciting to see.
Yeah, I actually really think that dynamic's interesting, companies that have that are HQ'd here or HQ'd in a different market but operations here. I think we're definitely going to see more of that. Like, African companies going global is definitely a trend we're going to see. So that's really cool. I want to talk a bit about Vesti and Olu. I think we've gone back and forth a lot actually about what Vesti's doing, and I think it's such an interesting concept, building rails for migration, which is a massive, massive market and a massive group of, like, I guess, people on the continent leaving. I'm really curious about, some people call this Japa, some people call this brain drain, but you have an interesting perspective on this, which is it's actually brain gain. And so I want to hear a little bit about that. Like, tell us about what Vesti's mission is, and I guess the hope or the ambition for what that will mean for the continent.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Caleb. Yes, we've had quite a number of conversations on this. Like, if you look at it on the micro scale, short term, you would see it as potential brain drain. Oh, these guys are helping people get work permits, get visas to leave the continent. When you look at it on the macro scale, long term, medium to long term, you see it as a net brain gain ultimately, because people, essentially when they make that move, go become prosperous and determine what they're going to do, which is send remittances back home, become experts who come back home to build, the economies of their country. And if they ever become CEO of IBM or CEO of Microsoft, they would build large, corporations and large, headquarters in those countries. Recently, Microsoft Development Center just left Nigeria. I had 5 year stint at Microsoft before starting Vesti. And I would say that one of the main reasons is, maybe there's not just enough, interesting sentiment in keeping an engineering team on the continent, not because they are not, good enough engineers in Nigeria, but if the, technical fellow for mixed reality was a Nigerian who sat in Redmond, he would hire 5,000 people in Lagos. So eventually, if you think about that as, net brain gain, you just have to think in the interest of the talents. That's what we're trying to do at Vesti. I was working in Microsoft, earning a little below $30,000 a year in Nigeria as a celebrated employee. And I would move to Microsoft in the United States and earn 5 times the salary without my job title changing. So you need to think about that. And that's what happened in reality, You need to think about the talent, the interest of the talent. What I'm beginning to see now is that companies on the continent are also trying to ramp up and do better with reward and remuneration for employees, because now they know that if you don't reward these employees well, they are going to move. So in partnering with OBS, partnering with ALX, partnering with different organizations that are doing this, we just want to continue to build talents for the world and make sure these talents can find the right rails to actually actualize their potential, live anywhere on the planet, become whatever they want to be. It's amazing that Africa, Silicon Valley can offshore talent and essentially help companies hire from Africa, for an amount. But maybe those companies in Silicon Valley can pay 5 times more if this guy got a work permit and actually relocated down to the Bay Area, and then you can send more remittance back home, and, whatever value that means for Nairobi, for Lagos, for Cape Town, he can demonstrate that and build libraries and schools and do a lot more. So now we're not just seeing ourselves as the company that helps Africans to move anywhere on the planet. We're seeing ourselves as the company that helps humans move anywhere on the planet. So Americans who want to move to Africa, who want to move to Portugal, intra-Africa, people who want to move from Ghana and work in Cape Town because they think their opportunities are better there, should be able to, without, feeling like they're illegal, even on their own continent. So we want to continue to innovate around that. And trust me, using and working with, partnering with talent ecosystems on the continent has helped us significantly. My brother and I were in Dallas, Texas, building from there. But our first set of engineers were sitting down in Lagos, Nigeria, building for the source market. And later on, we needed to hire engineers that have migrated, experienced the problem, who now live in Dallas, Texas, and can build for immigrants based on the problems they faced, the biases they've encountered. And that's what we'll continue to do. Now we're expanding to Southeast Asia. And if we go to Singapore and Thailand and Philippines, we would need to hire an American immigrant who has moved to Singapore, who understands the problem. We will need to hire local talent in Singapore who understands the source market, in the case of someone who wants to move from Singapore to America. So global talent play will continue to be very important to us. Early this year, we did 10x like in growth, revenue in just because we got our team, all of our team members in Nigeria to finish up an AI course and build, a new virtual assistant that helps to scale our customer success team. Because there are just so many people who want to learn about how do I move to a new country. And that wouldn't have been possible if we wanted to hire 10 AI engineers out of Bay Area. That would have been hard. So you see, it's a mixture of all of these things, and we just have to keep that macro perspective about how this is a benefit for the continent on the long run.
That's really, really interesting. The idea that like we need a mix of talent, so it's not just local, it's not just global either. I'm really curious, especially like for folks who are building businesses or training or like trying to teach people how to, build and scale and like startups. What do you think of like how do you think about the competition? And I can give you an example of competition here for talent that you're all trying to get. We have really big hubs like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, kind of like a lot of these tech hubs that can go and typically go and find the best talent at, your startup or your startup or your startup and just poach them for maybe twice as much as what you would pay them. And they have infinitely larger budgets than you. And we find that this is a common challenge that startups here have, where like their best talent can go get a job at like Safaricom or at Microsoft. So how do you think about challenges there and retaining talent and keeping talent in your companies? Or do you think it's ultimately actually a good thing that they go and get gigs at Microsoft or at a Facebook or a Meta? It's for anyone.
I think of those things as a win, right? If I hire somebody, he's worked with me for 2 years, 1.5 years, and he gets a job in Microsoft or Google or whatever, I see it as progress for the person's life because I'm not Google, right? I may be something close to Google in the future, but now that's a bigger opportunity for that person. And my reality is to prepare for that on an ongoing basis, right? I ensure that my talent pool and I'm investing in as much as I have invested in the current team and also the future team, the potential, joiners in the organization. Um, Again, this is why we need to be ongoing with the things that we do. How much do you ensure that the people in your organization are growing? And if there are clear career paths or growth plans for people in your organization, then as a startup, you need to prepare for the reality that when these people leave, you need to replace them. I'm never going to be able to protect my organization completely from other bigger organizations poaching my staff. He gave an example of being in Nigeria and earning 30K, and you can move to the Bay Area and start earning 150K for the same job role. That's the reality of African talent. A lot of people will continue to be more aware of these opportunities, so you cannot just block them. You just have to prepare for the reality that when this happens, do I have a contingency? How do I ensure that I have an ongoing replacement for people in my organization? And then, if you find the ones that you really don't want to let go, give them something to stay for, right?
I think I can talk on the opposite side of that. As someone who supplies talent, I actually hope that happens. Oh, it definitely, of course, like reflects well on us. But I also just think about it even for the overall ecosystem as a whole, like a rising tide lifts all boats, right? And so when you look at all these other mature ecosystems, the guys who are founders and are building are coming from these big organizations. It's guys who are ex-Twitter, ex-Google, ex-Rocket Internet, etc. So I feel like if we do also want to start seeing our ecosystems mature as well, we need to start seeing these guys go to such organizations, see what it is to build and work on, bigger and more, I guess, scalable problems, and then leave to go do their own things. So I do think it's important that that actually does happen, and I actually actively encourage it. So yes, I know you want to be able to protect and keep some of your best talent, but letting them free and letting them continue to grow, I think
That's exactly
definitely helps. It's exactly what you said. I think letting them free and letting them grow is super key.
I want to add one more thing to what you're both are saying. One, even in Silicon Valley, the startups are fighting against the Googles and the Microsofts. So that's a reality we can't escape from. However, what is really needed is the opportunity, the diverse opportunity. And there are things the Googles and Microsoft can offer, which is that accelerated learning curve and being able to work on really impactful local projects. So for us, through the incubation arm, that's what we're providing, to the point that our students, even after experiencing internships at Google and Databricks, are coming back to lead these projects. So what we're seeing is, if the opportunity is there, attractive enough, that connects to their impact, to the bigger purpose of their community, they will come back. And if they don't, to what you said, it's okay. There will be value that comes back to the continent one way or another.
Yeah, that's it. Any other perspectives?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that. Oh. Yeah, I wanted to say that essentially there is a strategy that some Nigerian pastors, as entrepreneurs, have taken to really be able to attend to this, which is go to the market where your talent is going. Essentially, what they've done is, if people are moving to Canada, then they go open branches up in Canada. So essentially, if it works for you, just in addition to what he has said, if it works for you, what we did is we built a roadmap for our employees in terms of retaining talent, to say you can work out of the US office, you can work out of the London office, because we're truly global. And so that keeps them, if immigration or moving abroad is really what they want to do. And as you said, if you really want to keep those people, you have to match it with equity, match it with, salaries and all of that. But again, I would say that we're always on the side of the talents. We are always on the side of this. We're a consumer company. So we have more customers than we have employees. So our model basically stays on the side of the talents. And that is the fact that if you want to go work in Tokyo, Japan, like, we want to support you to do that. And so regardless of wherever it is you're going around the world. So it's our joy as well, like ALX, that a user on our platform gets a job at Google. They may have left the company they're working with right now, but they will go to Google and then become mentors to all the young people that, they left, in their home country, and eventually, hopefully, on the long run, can maybe build companies and do the same. I just think there's so much responsibility that African corporations need to take as well, to say, we're not going to lose these talents to the international community. If these guys are living a startup, they should be moving to like an eco bank, or within the continent. That is their responsibility, not Vestis. You get what I mean? So we have to make sure that we support our talents wherever they go. They will still be able to remember the skin is not going to peel off. They're still black, and wherever they go, they would represent the excellence, the grit, the strength that Africa is. And that's what we want to demonstrate all over the world, Black excellence.
Unreal. Any final comments before we go to some crowd questions? Rennie, do you want to add anything on?
Yeah, sure. The one thing I wanted to say is that, we work with startups from the outside coming in. We're not here to compete. We're here to bring value, and we're here to partner, right? Just yesterday, I had a conversation with a fintech founder that told me that the reason why he's not scaling is because he can't find the right cybersecurity solution in order to prevent fraud and lose money, right? He can't find it locally. And honestly, the solutions that are available are too expensive. That's why an organization like us exists, because we then go to Israeli companies that have those solutions available, that aren't aware that there is a market here. And they aren't aware that if they want to enter this market here that is booming, and this is the future, right? I mean, especially in fintech, they will need to change their models, and they will need to become affordable, and they will need to be flexible enough to be relevant. And that's what we do. And also, that's why we're an NGO in this space, right? We're in a market failure. So again, it's all about partnerships and creating these win-win situations, and creating more opportunity. If any of you have any tech needs that you want to explore, we are here. Our booth is outside. We have 10 really, really cool fintechs with us today that have developed solutions for these markets. So come see us. And yeah, thanks.
I'd like to say one last thing as well.
Sure.
From our side, and we love working with guys like yourself. Like, we are always looking to partner because we've got an incredibly ambitious goal. So for us is to hopefully train, mentor, and put out into the market 3 million entrepreneurial and ethical leaders by 2030. We're well on our way, but we do need some help. And so if any of you are incredibly, incredibly interested in either being technical mentors, or you've got a great program where we can funnel founders into it, please look for me. I'd be happy to have a conversation.
Love it. All right, we might have time for one or two questions from the crowd. Do we have a rolling mic or no? No questions? No time or no questions? No questions. All right, no questions. Let's do a quick roundup then. I'd love to get one takeaway from everyone here on what will strengthen our continent's talent ecosystem.
You want us to go this way?
You can start.
Okay, I could start. I think it goes back to what I said with not just teaching guys tech skills, right? I think we can no longer sit here and do the upskilling for upskilling's sake, right? I think we've done enough of that. Even for us, as an example, we've done 250,000 software engineers in the last 4 years, right? So that's a lot of placement that we now need to think about. And I think where the gap starts to become is these guys are skilled technically, but I don't have the industry specific skill set to actually meet the needs of these organizations. She just mentioned someone who's looking for something in cybersecurity. Yeah, that guy might be a backend engineer, but has zero concept of understanding of how to work with things like Cisco, et cetera, and the likes. So I think to improve it is, yes, continue to train folks, but two, it's aligning with industry, aligning with startups, aligning with also even governments as well, and saying, okay, how do we sort of segment some of our training to be a little bit more specific to meet the actual needs that people actually have? I think that's what's going to help.
Unreal. Oh,
Yeah, I think one thing that is really important for us is to always have an holistic view and have like a bird's eye view on what the situation really is and be ready to have difficult conversations. Talent on the continent doesn't necessarily mean only Africans. If a Tel Aviv company is building for a fintech company in Nairobi or in Lagos, that is talent for the continent. We must be that continent that can attract talent from everywhere. And that's why we're building mobility rails for someone who is a young person in Tennessee or in Wisconsin and is just out of college and is looking to, join a startup in Lagos, Nigeria, shouldn't spend 6 months trying to find a work visa. So building those mobility rails, thinking about talent on the continent, thinking about talent around the world has to go beyond, the lines, of, thinking about everything being brain drain and all of that. We must support infusion. We must support, hybrid, structures that bring people from everywhere to anywhere on the planet. So we essentially want people to be able to move from anywhere to anywhere for work, for school, for education. And as we think about nurturing talent on the continent, it would start from being able to solve our local problems, ensuring that people can find opportunities and can compete globally, but also to be able to make sure that people from anywhere around the world feel comfortable in Africa as well to be able to support the ongoing work.
The way I see it, it's all based collaboration, bridging between ecosystems, right? Partnering together, and then the talent benefits. Expertise, knowledge, it trickles down, and new startups emerge, new solutions come up, new challenges birth new solutions, but it all starts with partnerships at the beginning and kind of working and finding and co-creating from the start.
For us to develop top tier talent that not only is competitive in the continent, but at the global scale, we really believe quality education is necessary. And for us, we provide it for free because it is about democratizing that access and opportunity. But what that means is we do need that funding to continue scaling this operation. So, in addition to the partnership, that funding partnership is very important, both from the government, public, and private sectors to really nurture the talent we need to develop the solutions for Africa by Africans and also to be competitive globally. So that is very key in the way we see it. Beyond that is from a policy change perspective, where we can see governments really adding value. Recently in Ethiopia, for example, there is some encouraging signs that we're seeing. So we want to see more of that across the continent. So not only A2SV, but other folks like us can really do meaningful work.
Thanks. I think collectively as an industry, right, beyond just locations like countries and cities and stuff, I think the entire technology industry needs to make our progress more visible. right? The successes, just like you said, we need to be able to dial back and take a bird's eye view of how far we've really come and tell that into tangible success stories that, young talent can latch up to or look forward to. If I'm fascinated by data science or front end engineering or something, I want to be able to see somebody whose career started in my geography, my location, and grew to a certain point, and I say, oh, I'm going to put all my efforts into becoming something like this as well. So, beyond just communication and collaboration and all of those things, we need to have a bird's eye view or focus on how to report the things that are really successes of the industry and make that visible to people that can consume it, and then pour their own talent into um the industry as well. Sure.
Unreal. Thank you so much to our incredible panel. That's a wrap. Let's put our hands together for these guys and their insight.
Thank you, Caleb.